Well, good morning and thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything too important before it was being recorded. Anyway, thank you everyone for making the call. What a great turnout. No pressure for easy riders, but really lovely. Perhaps what we could do is just take a moment for each person to check in, and just not more than a minute, just give us a quick sense of where you are and what your mood is, and we'll create our community.
Is Wendy on yet?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Sorry,
Wendy.
Hello.
So who would like to start, just to check in?
Well, I can.
Love to.
Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Brian. Yep, I was going to say I would love to start because I am full of grace at the moment. You'll hear more about it in a few minutes as I kind of talk through what's going on. But for those of you that don't know, I'm on a mission trip right now, and I'm in Lithuania. And so just having the ability to converse in a different language, but to figure out how to communicate with people, it's just such a blessing right now. So I'll share more of that in a few minutes. But Richard, I am at peace and just looking forward to our conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin.
Wendy, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm feeling the energy of a Monday morning. And I'm in a mode of gratefulness. My husband and son are about to embark on a 6-week cross-country road trip together. And I can't think of a better thing for a 15-year-old boy than to spend some quality time adventuring with his dad. So I'm going to miss him like the Dickens, but I just feel so excited for them both. My house is full of boxes and suitcases, and just super grateful.
Wow.
That is cool. Wonderful. Thanks, Wendy.
Well, and as I talked about or sent a message to my team earlier today and talked to some of the early login participants here, my life has been a little in change as well. A week ago, last Friday, I accepted a new position at the company here. We had a sudden resignation of a VP, and so we had a reshuffling of some job responsibilities. I've taken on the responsibilities of Vice President of Operations and Supply Chain. I relinquished some of my sales responsibilities and customer service, but retained international sales. So as I said to a couple people earlier, I'm drinking from a fire hose right now. And after this call, we have scheduled an opening ceremony for our expansion that we just did, which now falls under my responsibility. And we have 6 people from Japan coming over here, and all the state dignitaries that helped us put this whole project together. It's a week of pressing the flesh, so to speak.
Pressing the flesh.
Wow.
Lots of handshaking and bowing.
Wow. Brian, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Lovely. All right, let's keep it rolling. Who's next?
I'll offer. This is Matt Cleggy. Hi, everybody. So I'm feeling gratitude and kind of some sadness right now too. So my, for those of you that don't know, my oldest daughter graduated from high school this past weekend. And so I had my parents and my older brother and his family all come up from Indiana, where we're from originally. And it was just a unbelievably great weekend. The ceremony went well, and just very appreciative and thankful for our lives. But I just took my older brother to the airport to fly back, and so I'm just feeling kind of down that it's all over now, but also appreciative. So.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, sort of a bittersweet moment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm back in my office, like business as usual. So.
Yeah,
it's weird how that happens.
Thanks.
Sure.
And this is Ron. I'll go ahead and check in Atlanta, and it has been hot like crazy. 92 degrees yesterday, and just so it's been. I mean, just a really great place. We been doing a lot of renovation in our backyard, and so it's been fun to be outside in the heat doing work, and I enjoy that. It's a renewal for me. So I'm sore as all get out, but happy to be here.
Thanks, Ron.
I'll go next. Hey, everybody, it's Lainey. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Roger that.
I'm also in hot Atlanta, and it was definitely hot this weekend. I had my mom and brother up from out of town, so we had fun hanging out at the pool and catching up. And I think probably the best part of the weekend was getting to see my brother interact with my husband and a bunch of his guy friends. They all just kind of like take my brother in and pretend like they're his own brother. And it's really good just because my brother's not like the most social person, doesn't have a ton of friends in Savannah. So it was really good for him to spend the weekend up here with us and have some fun together.
Nice.
Lovely. Nice.
This is Robin. I can go. I am home in Richmond this week, and I had a just super relaxing day yesterday where we slept and napped on and off because I've had a crazy month or so. And so it was nice to have a day to do not one darn thing. So now back to Monday.
Great. Well, I'll check in. We'll keep it in the R's. You might notice my background. I'm in a little retro caravan in the middle of an arid area in Texas called Marfa, which is where Amy and I got married. And we're taking a long weekend, actually a little longer than a long weekend, and enjoying being out in the desert. And we'll go out to the church where we got married, 11/11/11, and renew our vows. And just, it's been a lovely week of, there's an agave festival here, which means there's lots of tequila and mezcal and all kinds of things that could have you lose your mind. Anyway, it's been really fun, and I woke up this morning so excited to be on the call. So I'm actually in a place of appreciation and challenge in the best way possible. Like, what's this next chapter for all of us going to be as we make the transition from being in this community in this form, and to take the seeds that we've learned and how they'll grow. So I'm in.
Hi, everybody. It's Melissa. I'll just check in from Boulder. It's also hot here. I hope it's cooler in Aspen, Elizabeth, but 90 degrees over the weekend, and the next few days are going to be the same. My sprinkler system is broken, so I'm having to hand water my grass to keep it barely alive, and it's a crazy amount of work.
Well, this is Elizabeth, and I'm in Aspen, and it is beautiful and cool. It's about 67, 70 degrees, and it will warm up to be, 80. And I'm up here with Will and a couple of friends, and what we're calling the Year of Will. He celebrated his 50th birthday last August, and this is our final celebration off with some friends. And I was on a hike yesterday with my girlfriends, and we saw a 6-foot black bear. And
Wow.
we did not bother to take a picture of it. We decided to walk the other way. It's
And live another
fantastic to
day.
be here. Yes, exactly. But no, this is just such a peaceful, wonderful place to be, and can't think of a better place to be for this call.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So I got nine people. Who are we missing? I can't see everybody.
I see Julian's on, but he's muted.
Yeah, Julian, Sabi J.
Sabi J.
He said he's listening, but he can't participate because he's at home caring for his kid who is sick.
I see that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's it then, right?
I think so, Richard.
Okay. Well, as you can see, first of all, it's so great to hear everybody, and it's so great how we can check in and be essential. All of the practice, I think, has really paid off. So just the opening slide there to remind ourselves the purpose is to generate our individual and community learning about how the principles that we've been apprenticing for all this time of CII show up in real world value. You know, it's like the test of an insight is how we are in action. And I think we've already started the method in a fun, interesting, and engaging way. Each of our team will be presenting the learning event, and I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing the creativity and what those insights are. And we ask that you guys, we all listen to see what is the one actionable insight we can lead with, which will make the call valuable. And maybe just take, we'll have a moment after Melissa's gone through some of the logistics, which I think by now most of us are familiar with. But Melissa, would you be willing to just give us the logistics and timing, and then we'll do a presenting practice and we'll launch with our presentations.
Yes, absolutely. Let me get the appropriate slide up here. Okay, here we go. Everyone will have 7 minutes for their presentation. Uh-oh, I lost it.
We've got it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Melissa,
Sorry,
would you like
everybody,
me
I'm
to
not
keep?
I'm not sure what happened. I lost my, oh.
I can.
Yeah, okay, sorry, there we go. Here we go. I'm sorry, everybody. So 7 minutes for presentation, and then followed by 3 minutes of questions from everyone. If you'll open your PowerPoint presentation on your desktop, it'll be ready to access. When it's your turn to present, along the bottom of the screen, there's a little icon folder that says share screen. A dialog box will pop up. Choose your PowerPoint from your desktop, and then there's another little button that you'll have to select in the lower right-hand corner that says share screen, so that we'll all be able to see your slide. When you are presenting, you have control of your slides, so you can advance them when you're ready. As you all know, we're recording the session right now, and when we're done, I'll send a link to the recording for everyone. You also probably are aware of the instant messaging. If you select the chat icon along the bottom, you can message the group, as Julian sent us all a message, or you can select from the drop down to send private messages. I forgot to mention, I'll give 2-minute warning as gently as I can when you have just a little bit of time left, so you'll know that you have a few more minutes left. It goes by really fast, so I'm apologizing in advance for the interruption. And we do request that when you're not presenting, if you'll keep your phones on mute, please, then it'll eliminate any outside noises that your microphone might be picking up. And with that, we'll back to Richard.
Richard, you're on mute.
That's right, and that was the most important thing I had to say the whole thing. It was a presence exercise, and I'm encouraged by it's not the art of perfection, but the art of correction. Thanks, Robin. So let's just take a moment and, in your own way, find a comfortable place to sit, and just watching your own breath. And maybe we'll give ourselves 5 conscious breaths. And when you finish with this, conscious breathing in, breathing out 5 times, let your breathing return to normal. And see if you can relax any parts of your body that might be holding tension that we don't need to hold. And then maybe just as we begin to come out of being in the presence practice, just think think for yourself, where is there an area that seems particularly challenging for you right now? And as best as you can, just sort of create a little signature picture of that. And maybe you could be listening today to the conversation and be open to something that will be said that will have a profound impact on that area that you have as an area of interest or concern. And then we'll bring our attention back to the presentation. And I'm wondering, Kevin, Wendy, Brian, if you guys have a particular order, and I think if we establish that now, we'll have a nice flow from one to the other, because there'll be a slide that'll come up that will be the transition slide. So who would like to go first, and what order would you follow?
If it's okay with the other two, I would not mind going first, as I'm unsure of my audio connection here in Lithuania. So if that's okay, I'd volunteer to go first.
Perfect. And then I've got in my order Wendy and Brian. And are you guys good with that order, Wendy and Brian? Okay. I'm assuming silence is yes. So we'll go Kevin, Wendy, and Brian.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Thanks, Kevin.
Fine.
Yeah, same here.
All right.
All right. Richard, do I have it?
Yep, it's you.
All right. Well, I don't have slides to share today as I am on audio. So if anyone is on Zoom and tries to do a private message, it won't work because I will not be able to see it. So you'll just have to do it the old-fashioned way and talk to me. So I think what I'd like to share with you today is really a twofold. The impact on my life from a professional standpoint, in my business life, and the impact on my life in a personal manner. And that's really where Conversant has been beneficial to me, and a blessing is in both regards. Similar to Brian, I've had a number of role and responsibility changes since the program started last year. And I think any other time in my career, as I went through career changes or responsibility changes, I reacted in shtick mode. Of course, at the time, not realizing it was shtick mode, but looking back on it, it's crystal clear. And it was about the putting up the walls, the self-preservation, how do I do this safely? as opposed to looking at it from what is my purpose? How can I embrace this, and what can I do to be a blessing to others? And over the past, I'll call it 9 or 10 months, with the different changes that have gone on within my company and the roles that I've been taking on, I've really seen a transition from the fear. And y'all may remember my theme song that I chose with Elizabeth was "No Longer a Slave to Fear." And I saw a transition in my own life on the professional side of living in fear or living in the risk avoidance of what might happen. And instead of looking at things of, well, what can I do to drive something good here? And how can I be a benefit or blessing to others? And the biggest thing that Conversant has helped me with on the professional side is that practice of being present. Just like we just did. I spent so many years in my professional life multitasking and ignoring that I realize now that I wasn't really doing any good to anyone, especially myself, but those around me. And so the ability to just kind of stop and set things aside and focus and be present on what's in front of me. And I love what Richard said at one of the classes was, whatever's going on, let's begin with the reality that what is here in front of me right now is where I'm starting. And instead of, wondering why me or why not this, why not something else, just embrace that point of, okay, here's where I am, let's go. Switching gears to the personal side, I mentioned at the beginning of this, I'm in Lithuania this week, and I'm able to spend this week just sharing and talking with other people about their value. This country, this Lithuania, this region, the people are so without hope. There's been many, many decades of oppression, and many of them grew up either under Russian oppression or others, and they've been used to people telling them that they're of no worth. And so to come here and just to love on them and to share grace and to tell them that they are valuable to somebody, and we're willing to come halfway around the world to tell them that, it has really been a nice thing. I'm teaching English as a second language classes, and tonight's going to be the first class. So y'all can think about me tonight or later this afternoon for your time, because I'm scared to death. I know English, but I've never taught ESL classes. I've especially not taught it to Lithuanians because I've never been here before. So it's one of those things of where I can embrace putting myself out there, where a year ago, without a clear understanding of my purpose, as you all helped me to discover, I didn't have that to kind of rely on and say, no, this is what you were made to do. This is what you were intending to do with your life. And just go out there and don't worry about the fear. Don't worry about what might happen. Just go embrace and have conversations with people. And so the ESL class that I'm teaching is actually conversational English. And it's all about, I will pose some questions and we will have conversations with each other, and that's how they learn and practice English. And so I get to do that this week, and there's my 2-minute warning. I get to practice that this week I think back to the first class when we were talking and working with the horses. I'm working with people that don't necessarily speak much of my language. They speak a little bit, but I need to find out a way to communicate with them so that I can help them to learn where I'm at and some of the things that we've come over to teach them. And so the principles and the thoughts behind Conversant just are ringing so true in multiple aspects of my life right now, not only in the business world, but personal as well. And it's just such a blessing to be able to look and see how many things come together and really just are coming to a point right now. I mean, I'm sitting in a city, I'm in Panevėžys, by the way, sitting in a city I never ever thought, I didn't even know what it was a few months ago. And here I am, I'm going to be teaching English to a group of adults later tonight in Panevėžys. So you never know where things might take you, and you never know what lessons you've learned that might be applicable to someone else. And so I'm just thankful for the time we've had together these last few months and what everyone else has taught me and encouraged me and helped me to know about myself so that I can now go and be a blessing to someone else. And that's the end of my slides.
Kevin,
Wow.
This is Robin. I just want to say that sentence about how do I do this safely, getting in the way of what I really want to do, just really, it is what we talk about with shtick and purpose, but the way you said it was so clear, it really sort of penetrated for me and had me really re-see that shtick is us trying to do things safely, and really what, for the most part, what is safety? You know, and so I love the risk that you're taking and the things that you're doing, but I just love that phrase and seeing how it really does get in the way of me doing other things. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Robin.
Yeah, and Kevin, this is Ron. I just I think the thing that is so exciting to me is just knowing in your journey the recognition that you are sufficient to do exactly what you need to be doing right now. that your sufficiency is not based on all the things that you think you've got to be perfect at or prepare, but it's exactly as you said. It's how do I link into the needs, the cares, the concerns, and it's the same at work as what you're doing. And I'm just really excited for this piece of journey that you're on, that you've allowed your sense of sufficiency to override your care of fear and concern. And I love it. And you will be great, my friend.
Thank you, Ron.
So this is Matt. One thing that I heard you say that I think makes all the difference in the world is that you, even though you have some fear or concern or anxiety about this, you said that you get to do these things rather than have to. And that's all mindset shift, or that perspective, takes something that can be scary but yet still very engaging and powerful and fun. So I just thought I'd call that out because I think that makes a big difference in how you see the world.
Kevin, just gosh, there's so much to be said. I was looking through your purpose statement, and that I'm set apart to be a pure man of grace. I'm set apart to be a pure steward of all that I am, in order to show value and bring peace and reconciliation to the world. I think you are in the most perfect place with a great attitude to do that. And then I just also love the way you said, we're here to love on them. And, we're willing to risk a little more of that love word as actually an enormous power. And so I think that's just amazing. And then I was in a conversation with some other conversant folks, and we were talking about the intersection of purpose, concerns, and circumstances. And this person threw out the idea, and what about connecting with people's wounds as well? And it seems to me, when you were describing a community, a culture, a country that has been and is living under the sense of oppression, I would imagine there's moments of deep listening, and in that, the wounds get healed because they are reflected back from a place of acceptance and love. So I'm just inspired by what you're doing. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize we don't have to be wounded in the same way to associate or empathize with someone else who's been hurt. I've not experienced the same things that these people here have felt and grown up with, but it doesn't mean I can't join in that with them and show concern and care and love, even though I've never felt the specific thing that they're going through.
Right. So thank you. Is there anyone else who's just saying, "Oh, my turn," and then if not, we'll move on. And thank Kevin.
It's Wendy, just real quick, which is just watching Kevin from when we first met to where he is now, the bravery with which he opened himself. And I mean, literally, you can almost like physically see him just open himself. I've loved watching. I'm grateful for having seen it and the joy that kind of started emanating out of him as he kind of came to that place. It was really special.
Lovely.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. All right, Kevin, take a nice deep breath in, and we appreciate so much you're also making sure that you created time and the logistics for the call. And blessings from us to you, and I'm assuming you're going to still be able to stay on the call.
Yes, I will. I'm going to hang on.
Okay, great.
I'm going to be walking about the city here because I have to get to my English class here shortly. I'll be okay.
Can't be late for your first English class.
I can't be late for my first day. No, sir.
All right, thank you. So Wendy, when you're ready.
Okay, I have no idea how to share my slides. I'm in a browser version that seems pretty limited, so we'll just go with the talk track.
So Wendy, Wendy, absolutely. And if you had slides, I think it's just really opening up your Power Deck and hitting share. I think that's it, right, Melissa? Okay.
Melissa's probably
Sorry, I was on mute. So Wendy, you don't have a visual on anything on the browser?
I'm in a browser version. I think it's the security here.
Okay.
I can raise my hand.
Yeah, it should be very clear along the bottom. You would see a little folder that says share screen.
No.
But so not familiar with what you might be looking at. Sorry.
Yeah, and if you put your cursor, if you bring your cursor down to the bottom, it actually opens up that list of things where you can share. If you don't bring your cursor down there, sometimes it doesn't show up.
No, I see adding participants and muting and leaving meeting, but that's it.
Okay.
No share screen.
We'll use our imagination to see the images.
Sure. All right. So when I first came to Conversant, it was not what I was expecting, which was I was just trying to figure out how to scale myself and feel less stressed. And I thought, well, I need a coach, right? That was kind of where the journey started, and luckily got introduced and sponsored to join this program. And we had to do this project that actually showed your return, and I'll talk about that in a second. But for me, it basically showed me not what I asked for, but what I really wanted, which was to sort of get outside of myself, I guess. And so the journey started with a project, which was that our company was in fairly desperate need of a strategic plan. Our employees were saying on the annual surveys how they didn't have direction. It was one of the lowest rated responses, and they were sort of desperate for a vision where they knew we were going to respond to competition and serve our clients in the best way possible, and they just didn't feel like we were in a good place in that front. And so that was my project, was to build a strategic plan that we would take to our board, and more importantly, turn that into sort of execution, a new product roadmap, sort of frameworks for assessing different acquisitions, build, buy, these kind of thing. And I was pretty daunted thinking I had to write that myself. right? I needed to have the answer. I needed to create this document. But this program helped me see that it was not that I should have the answer, but really that I needed to run a process to engage a whole lot of people who were much more expert in their various areas than I was, make it a safe place for them to share, their perspective on how we serve clients and what competitors are doing, and bring in data to the conversation, which is the one thing I could do well myself, and just kind of run a process where people could absorb things, question things, and eventually buy into the ultimate strategy that we came to, or set of strategies that we came to. And for me, there were a lot of learnings in a process that was that engaging, and many one-liners from Richard when we would have our coaching calls. And so I just thought I'd share a few things that I learned through the process. And the biggest one for me, there's two really big ones. The first one was that risking vulnerability doesn't mean you're weak. Especially as a woman, I was very concerned about showing any sense of vulnerability. And what Richard would say to me is, you need to stay open, but don't collapse, right? So, and it applied both personally, when I would say, I need your expertise because I don't know XYZ about security like you do, in the process of doing the strategy work, or even with the broader employee base, being honest about where our company's weaknesses were, where we were under attack. In the end, made employees feel better that we knew there were threats out there, as opposed to kind of sticking our head in the sand. So the vulnerability and the openness kept getting reinforced by people getting energized by it, as opposed to saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about. So that was probably one of the biggest revelations to me. The second big one was that knowledge is not wisdom. And you don't have to have all the answers. And that it was important, in fact, that I didn't solution things for others, like how they would get to a goal, but really say, here is our shared purpose. Here's the challenge we have to go tackle. Here's what's important to me. Here's what I'm concerned about. What's important to you? What are you concerned about? And the teams that worked on this project were amazing. They got things done that we as a company haven't been able to do, in talking about it for years. A major change in our pricing strategy, you name it. There were just so many things that made me incredibly proud of the team. They just needed a room to run, I guess.
About 2 minutes, Wendy.
Yep. So in the end, what I learned was that when I'm in shtick, it closed me off. And kind of like Kevin was saying, it had the illusion of being safe, but it really made others feel diminished, as opposed to when I'm in purpose, I have the ability to kind of galvanize other people, not because they work for me or report to me, but because we share a vision to go tackle a tough problem together. And it was the most revealing, energizing, life-changing course for me. Like I'm so grateful. So that's it for me.
Beautiful. Thank you.
That's great, Wendy. And I can just say, from being in the group with you, I saw you go from maybe a person that did want to melt at times, to a much stronger individual. And I think it's showing in where you are within your organization right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Wendy, I
This
can't
is Robin.
see anything on video at the moment.
Go
Sorry,
ahead,
Robin.
No,
I
please.
was just going to say, I can't see anything, but I can still see your smile. And that was the one thing I remember from all the conversations we had, this infectious smile. And, you know, when we included that in your purpose, it was because it was so true to who you are. And I can even see it now. So just thank you for that. Such an encouragement to us, even in the midst of troubles and hard times, just tackling it with a smile and saying, okay, here we are, what do we do? So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Wendy, this is Robin. I loved what you had to say about, well, both the risking vulnerability and about the knowledge isn't wisdom. You said that the team needed room to run, and I love that. I was with a group of high potentials last week, and that was what we said to the leaders afterwards, is you got to give them some more room. So I'm curious, how would you coach other leaders about how to give teams room to run? Like, what did you learn out of that you'd say, here's my one thing that I'd say is the most important about creating that space for people to go do that?
For me, it was learning about how to separate purpose from method.
Great.
So instead of telling them how to go tackle something, it was more about, here's what I want you to tackle, and here's the things to keep in mind as you go. You know, here's what good looks like in terms of what we as a team end up with, and let them figure out how to go get there. And it was that empowerment and ability to like make it their own that yielded much better results than if I had said, here's how I want you to do it.
That's great. Thank you.
Wendy, it occurs to me that I love the phrase, you needed to give them room to run, and they just took it from there, and they did fantastic, wonderful things. And the encouraging thing in your story to me is that you actually gave yourself room to run. And that this whole thing about, Robin just asking, what was it? It was getting them aligned to purpose and letting them go with the method kind of a deal. You did the same thing for yourself. I think you have reignited, and it's just been a wonderful transformation to watch. And I don't buy for a minute that you are stronger than you were. I think you were always strong, and you just have started uncovering it in ways that are profound. So you go and tackle the world, my friend, because you've got everything you need. And I love the fact that you've unleashed yourself and you've given yourself a place to run.
Well, thank you. It has actually been really, really fun.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. That's amazing. And I'm looking at your purpose, and smiling heart captures it all for me. And I also thanks so much for saying about needing room to run, and Robin for asking that question. I think this is something that I want to keep apprenticing. So thank you again for your generosity of your participation with such a full, open, and vulnerable heart.
Thank you for all the calm calls.
Yes. So if anyone else has anything to say to Wendy, this would be our time. If not, we'll have Brian close us out.
Okay.
All right, Brian, you're up.
All right.
Do we have any visual assists? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, as you may or may not realize, I'm usually a pretty direct linear person, so this presentation is really focused on what I got out of CII for my work organization. But a lot of it also applies to my personal life as well. But as you know, I'm in an ag environment here, so This is how we're going to start out. With my job changes, supply chain has always been one that has kind of carried through as I've gone through CII. So that's what I chose to talk to in this presentation, and how we're looking at what we had was good, but how to move it to a great supply chain. And when we look at our organization and why we wanted to focus on it, and isn't good enough, when we look at what we do, when we just take basic agricultural commodities and turn them into food ingredients, 85 to 95% of our cost of goods sold is that raw material itself. So the emphasis on buying it correctly, whether it be price, quality, how we convert it in our plants, is very critical to being competitive in the marketplace. And I just used oats as an example here. We deal with all kinds of grains, but it's a very straightforward process that we do to add value for common food ingredients or products that you use every day. So then I started looking at what needed to change or what needs to change. And first and foremost, it was myself. Interactions up and down our organizational structure, using the tools from CII and Richard's calming coaching to me, it was invaluable just practicing presence, and how that helped me focus on staying in purpose versus reverting to shtick. And when, I still have my shtick and purpose here, and it sits at my desk every day, and I look at that, and when I'm in shtick, it's effective, but it's not the effectiveness that I want to create for the organization. And moving into these, engaging others in cycle of value conversations versus cycle of waste, it's truly amazing to me how much that moves the company forward rather than holds it back. So that's been the ahas for me, is moving from shtick to purpose, and how that has created much more value, even though I thought when I was in shtick I was creating value as well. It's not the case. Then also company culture, we've recognized needs to change here. We have very long-term employees here. Good is good enough, I hear. We've always done it that way. Those type of things are, I'll say, old school. Maybe it got you to where you are today, but in today's work environment and to continue to grow, you need to look at what needs to be done in the future, not what you did in the past. And cultural changes are easy to say, but very difficult to actually make those changes. I find many of my coworkers are very deep in pretense. They'll say one thing, but they're doing something totally different. So those are the two things that I've been looking at myself, and how I can help change the culture here. The impacts, because I'm dealing with supply chain, impacts are pretty easy to measure. First, our supply chain conversations have taken on an increased global perspective and consideration, rather than a much more regional. We're selling in the world, we need to also source from the world.
About 2 minutes, Brian.
Okay. Authentic conversations are developing throughout the organization. Silos are breaking down, and what it's doing is creating shared purpose. Monetary impacts, I can put dollars on mine. New supply arrangement with an organic ingredient. I worked with the customer to create value for it. It was a very unique product that they had. The old school was saying, well, that's how we have to do it, otherwise the product changes. When I proposed dollars to them, they were much more willing or receptive to take it on. And we had a very nice savings that we could both share. Looking globally versus doing the same thing, one of our top 10 ingredients. We're now sourcing out of the part of the world where Kevin is right now, out of Bulgaria, actually. I hate to say it, it's sunflowers. It was the industry I came from prior to coming to Dakota Specialty Milling. And I'm not buying from the guys down the road anymore. I'm buying it from quite a ways away on another continent. Here it was a cost savings and a quality improvement, so it was a double win. And then we're developing a simplified supply chain for potential customer, and it's projected to increase our company's bottom line by $500,000 and save that customer $800,000 next year alone. And
Wow.
they're looking at some pretty aggressive growth plans. So these numbers can only increase. It's very rewarding because it helps us utilize a underperforming asset right now, and it's a great win-win. But it was out of the box thinking. We couldn't use the same, this is the way we've always done it, or they were looking at their supply chain. They thought it was good. We showed them something that was better. So going from good to great, this used to be good. Now this is great. And I want to thank Conversant for all the tools you've given me to get to where I am today.
Oh, Andrew, that's fabulous. Yay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Brian, that's some of those results are really amazing. If you could give one piece of advice to someone to have them shift from this is the way we've always done it to really looking at other alternatives, like what would be your one piece of advice that helps people to shift that thinking?
Well, just looking at like the conversation meter, when you're realize somebody is in pretense, and how do you get them to start moving that needle? And my shtick was always great at being a carrot or a stick approach, but the carrot approach is a much more effective way of doing it.
That's awesome.
Keeping it in the food images.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, Brian, this is Ron. I love the idea that you started this thing. I'm linear, and I'm follow a train of thought. I love the fact that you are practical, and you take these tools and put them into practice in a way that the rest of us can relate to in a practical way. So thank you so much for that. I am curious. You mentioned the idea that you're seeing much more authentic conversations and silos breaking down. How are you seeing this work actually contributing to the silos breaking down in your organization?
Well, I've tried to work outside of my silo, and maybe that's why some of my roles have changed, because I've been really focused on doing that. But when you work especially in food manufacturing, you can create a lot of silos, from procurement to quality to operations to customer service and that sales function. And really, no one of them can be very effective by themselves. And I always call it a three-legged stool, where no three-legged stool can stand on two legs. You need all three of them. So you can look at procurement as one leg, you can look at operations as a second leg, and sales as a third leg. But even with a three-legged stool, if you don't have spindles holding those legs together, and that's what I call quality control, one of those legs can start falling away, and the chair starts to tip. So that's kind of the approach or the analogy that I've started using company meetings and stuff like that, where we need to work as that three-legged stool. And using the seat, I take accounting and administration, I use that as the seat because that's really the platform that we all work from. And all these other segments of the company work in harmony with that.
That's great. That's great.
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, Brian, thank you. I'm noticing we have about 2 minutes to go, and I just want to make sure if anyone else would like to make a comment to Brian, and then we will do a one-word checkout.
Hey, Brian, it's Kevin. I just wanted to say, you and I, as we determined multiple times over the course of the last year, live parallel lives.
Yeah.
And so many things we have in common. And I just want to thank you for all the encouragement and the motivation that you've given me, and just to have somebody who's truly a brother and a friend. And just thank you for all that you've done the last year.
Well, thank you, Kevin.
And from Wendy, I'm proud to have been with two men of such deep faith and just commitment to the people that they care about. It's been inspiring, really inspiring to see.
And I'll just add, Brian, for me, you demonstrate what it means to have integrity in action, starting with the step closest, and then suddenly here over the year, your life has changed in such a great way, and you've brought such great value to the company. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you guys, thank you all for taking time and being part of the Easy Rider presentation. Julianne, thank you for being the silent baby or child sitter. Perhaps just one word as we close out, and I apologize, we were about 1 minute over time. So as we as a community close this call out, what's the one word that would represent how you're feeling?
Awesome.
Aw.
Humbled.
Privilege.
Excited.
Blessed. Lainey, was that you?
I said smiley.
Anyone else out there? Wonderful, guys.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
Elizabeth left us a quote up from the mountains, proverb. She says, the proverb is, God gives us each a song. So let's go sing our song today, guys. Blessings. Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.